Let me show you what fusion can do!
Welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I'm actually giving you my review of Bleach, Rebirth of Souls. Now, it's been a while since I made a video, but I wanted to make sure that if I'm making an actual video and not just streaming, it's about something I wanted to talk about. And what other way than to jump into the newest Bleach game, which also I will be streaming this week on Yoon-Fam Gaming. But just to start off, I will say that this game has grown on me the more that I play it. If that doesn't make sense, it's probably because my first impressions were not really great based on a few factors such as like the graphics and whatnot. It looked like things were kind of washed out in a sort of like 720p, almost PS3 / like Wii kind of resolution, which wasn't really hitting properly, being that this game is like only on next gen or current gen consoles, and that didn't sit right with me. Also, some of the character models had a lot of edging going on, almost like you're seeing like pixel breaks as if you would see on like a screen like a PSP or something. So combining these together was a little distracting, especially at first. Now, I will say that with patch 1.03, they may have altered this a little bit, because it seems like either I've gotten used to the graphics or they haven't increased since like launch day. I don't know if that's exactly the case. That's just my perception of the situation. And what I want to say, starting with that now, is like, if it's either one of those scenarios, then I think it's not that big of a deal. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about when it comes to this game is the gameplay, because that's probably going to be the most divisive area in which people are having issues with this game. It's not for everybody, and it's mainly based on the movement system. So while it's not exactly an arena fighter, there's more, I would say, like elements of turn-based systems in here. And that's not to say that you can't actually like pull out some really cool combos and stuff, because you can. The systems are there, and they are fairly deep if you're willing to put the time in to actually train how to use these characters, who all play very differently, mind you. Now, the movement is the biggest issue with some people, because you have like flash step and you have like your teleport and stuff like that, but it seems to be like the only way that you really move. There's not really much movement from the characters outside of like flash stepping out of the way, flash stepping towards your opponent, or flash stepping behind your opponent. It's kind of a learning curve, and it is frustrating at first when you're trying to actually just like have some fast gameplay, but you can't even really move your character technically. This falls short in a lot of ways, because you have two separate types of attacks. You have your regular attack, and then you have your triangle attack, and that attack is more long range, but it still has a range with a sword or something, unless you're actually using like Keto or Cero or something like that. And then there's your special attack, or signature attack as I like to call it. So if you're using your regular attack at the start of battle, chances are it's not going to connect to start your combo string. You have to kind of get in close, and it's no real way that I've actually seen. There is probably a way, but from playing the tutorial and playing the story and playing mission mode and some versus battles, I haven't really found a way to like break the actual combo string once you start it, which becomes an issue when you start getting into like your red meter. So you have like your lives, and then you have your meter for like that life. So let's say you have 2 stock lives, and then the meter goes down based on you getting attacked. When you finally get a chance to have your lives taken away, it'll turn red. And if you turn red then and you combo break, you'll pretty much press R2 and you'll go into like your super attack, which will take away those stock lives. And that's basically the gameplay loop. A lot of it is just waiting for an opponent to attack, blocking, and then using the proper attack back while they're blocking, because we have a kind of rock, paper, scissors system in which square attacks and triangle attacks, R1 attacks or reversals, and signature attacks are all like weaker or stronger to each other depending on which one you're using. It is a little bit frustrating to get to know the systems at first because there's a lot going on, but it is fulfilling once you actually get more in depth into the actual systems itself. And I find myself having a lot of fun playing the game, and once you actually get over the visuals, I think there's a lot there to enjoy. So I'm not going to hold that against that at all. Now, story mode is probably the first mode you're going to be jumping into outside of training with Yoruichi as soon as you actually start the game. And it is very long. Okay, so if you're not really going from fight to fight to fight as often as you wish. There are long cinematics in between these fights, and these story modes are actually really long in this game, time-wise. So if you're like leading up to the story, and it's not very like cinematic as you would like it to be. The game is cinematic in gameplay, but when you're playing the story mode itself, it's a lot of PS2 era, like via Dragon Ball Tenkaichi kind of style cinematics, like specifically like Tenkaichi 2 or 3, where it's just character models that are standing there and talking, basically, albeit without lip sync properly, because like if you're playing in English or something else, it's not going to be synced up. And even the way that their mouths move, I don't think is actually synced to the Japanese dialogue as well, because it seems very generic and just like mouths open and talking and whatnot. And this is broken up by title sequences in between certain story beats that are actually going into the next chapter or saga. And unfortunately, I feel like they're using AI to actually narrate this, as opposed to using some budget to actually hire a voice actor or a narrator to actually narrate it. I'll give you an example here, and you can tell me what you think.
Some 13 Court Guard Squad captains aim for our heroes. Others change their thoughts after encountering Ichigo. Others.
So obviously, that does sound like it's AI. There's points in there where it's actually so funny because the AI doesn't know how to properly pronounce Bankai. It calls it like Bankai, and you can tell because like all the other characters throughout the story mode are actually pronouncing Bankai properly, but the AI can't seem to do it. There's a lot of awkward pausing and starting, not like a flow through of an actual person that's like reading a script, and it can be jarring at times and take away from the story. The other points of the story that you're actually going to be seeing are like little, almost slideshow-esque cut frames. So you'll have like the character speaking dialogue, but it's just like a picture of the character and some stuff going on in the background. It definitely seems that they skimped a little bit on the production value of the story mode itself, which is fine because not everybody plays these games for story. A lot of people play these games just to fight with their friends or go online, which brings me to my next point. It seems that on day one, there are two key features that are sorely missing from this, and this brings me back to like Jump Force memories, which are there's no online ranked, and there's no spectating in the lobbies. It seems like you can only have like 2 players in a lobby and you're just basically fighting each other. I don't think you can actually have rooms with multiple people where they can spectate your battle while they're waiting in turn, kind of King of the Hill style or something like akin to that, which is a little disappointing because that's mainly how I play with my friends. It's usually a bunch of us in a room together doing like some kind of King of the Hill. And maybe this will be patched in a future patch. Who knows at this point? We just have to wait for more information from the developers themselves. But it is a little lackluster when you're playing in the versus modes in a primarily versus game. The characters and roster in this game aren't as disappointing as I initially was going to think, because I initially in my own brain thought that we were going to get like 16 character roster or something, and I think it's like 32, with one unlockable character, which is like Final Gatensho Ichigo that you get from beating the story mode, and the extremely long story mode, mind you. But production values and characters aside, I think it is fun in these systems to mess around and play with, and there are like alternate costumes and stuff like that. It's more like alternate colors or costume variations, like Ichigo has the most. And for example, if you're choosing his like Bankai form, you can have his like destroyed Bankai look from the start of battle, as opposed to just going in there full. And some of the other gameplay mechanics that I wanted to talk about, which are a little strange besides the movement and such, is the actual fight itself. Like I did say, it's like somewhat turn-based, where you're pretty much blocking, waiting for openings, and then retaliating with the proper attack to catch your opponent off guard, as you can see in the gameplay here, and then it actually sends them flying. And when it sends them flying, you initiate your super by pressing R2, which is a follow-up attack and automatically starts with a cinematic, which goes into their super, and this gets away your life stock. Your stock lives are depleted depending on what kind of attack is used and what awakened state your character is in currently at the moment of attack. So if you're like awakened, or some characters can awaken twice, like Okuiara, then you're going to be doing, like, instead of 2 stocks of life, you might be doing 4 or even 5 stocks of life. And there's also like the comeback mechanic where your stats are temporarily boosted by pressing L2 and square. And that's like primarily like what the gameplay loop is. There are combo strings, and there are different varied setup combos that you can set up with each individual character, and they're all different depending on their signature moves. Some might be better than others. For example, some characters like Neliel, if you're going into a combo and you knock them back in their automatic knockback, you might have to press like L2 and X to teleport behind the enemy to start like the rest of that combo. But some characters can actually use their signature after that. If you're using Okuiara, for example, you can actually do his combo attack string, send them flying, and follow up with a Sero, which will pretty much automatically attack, because most of the attacks in this game do track. It plays more like a 2D when it comes to the attacks, instead of like completely missing your opponent. Sometimes they do miss if you're like in the middle, if you're just like willy-nilly like doing a special attack or a signature attack. Sometimes the enemy will sidestep it, or like they'll teleport behind you or something just to get out of the way of that attack. The gameplay is somewhat satisfying though. It is very different. I don't know about the longevity of it, because it inherently breeds repetitivity in the way that you're actually doing the battle system. So playing against the computer is one thing, but if you're sitting there playing against friends, you're pretty much watching this like stop and go type of gameplay that's not very it is cinematic, but it's not very integrated properly when you're actually doing this for another audience, like if somebody were to spectate or something like that, because it's a lot of just like blocking until it's your turn, attacking, following up with like a special, and then like waiting until their bar's in the red, and just keep doing that until you can actually do their special or awakening. It's there is a lot there, but it can be a little frustrating if you're playing this constantly. If this is like your main game that you want to be playing, there are going to be repetitivity issues that you're going to come across, where you might start feeling a little bored with the gameplay, I want to say, and I think that's mainly due to the lack of freedom and movement for setups. But like your neutral is pretty useless unless like the character is right in front of you. So I don't know. It is a fun game to play. I don't know if it's totally worth the $70 that I paid for it. A lot of my friends I do know are waiting for a sale. So if that's your case, then maybe this review helped you to try to figure that out. Now, the character models look good. Everything looks good about that, the production value. There's different items you can equip, and there's 2 different ways that you can equip them. The first is via Saga. So if you're doing like the Hueco Mundo arc or whatever, you can set 4 items that usually have to deal with like spiritual pressure, defense, attack, stuff like that. And you can actually upgrade these using fragments. And there's no limit to them. You can just buy 1 of each if you want, depending on how much what it actually does. Like if it like increases attack through rage, or increases spiritual pressure when your pressure is cut down to 0, stuff like that. That can be set for every saga. And then there's also the secondary ones, which are talisman. And these talisman are used in the setup screen for battles and in missions, where you can get pretty much boosts. During story mode, though, I haven't really had much use for the talisman, because of the way that the gameplay loop is. It's inherently not that difficult, because again, you're just blocking and waiting for your turn to attack, and then initiating attack, and the computer is pretty much useless, and then you follow that rinse and repeat until the battle's over. I have lost a few battles, but it's not due to the fact of one of my stats being lower than the computer's, or an artificial difficulty spike. Or even technique or skill level. It's more of like I didn't block properly, because instead of pressing L1 to initiate block, I pressed L2 to either initiate a teleport or a special, and getting attacked for that. You're pretty much just waiting for an opportunity to attack. So I don't know. You can take this information for what you will. I'm enjoying the game thus far. I think it's going to be much more fun when I'm actually playing with friends. But part of me doing these reviews is I'm always trying to be honest. I don't think any game is a 10, so it's hard to actually rank a game like a 10. But when it comes to anime games, you have to give it extra points just for being unique, I want to say. So my initial ranking of this was probably going to be a 6, but I can bump that up to about a 7 because it does seem that they are improving things, and who knows with future patches how much more they'll actually add to this. So my final score for this game is a 7 out of 10, and this is a 7 out of 10 mainly based on anime fighting games, not based on all fighting games. If this was based on all fighting games, it would honestly be like a 4 or 5. Just based on you're not moving the way you would do in like Tekken or even like Soul Calibur or something like that. It's very limited in what you're actually doing. Also, I think the story mode, I know the budget was probably small, but they could have used like a free roaming mode or some kind of like Musu mode instead of just like watching these super long cutscenes in between of the battles, because they are few and far between and the cutscenes are long and they're not particularly engaging or entertaining. It's like I said, a lot of characters just like talking. So I don't know, that my score for this is a 7. I'll let you guys know more. We're going to be streaming it this week on Yoon-Fam Gaming, so you can actually see it firsthand. And by the way, all the gameplay that you see that I used in this video was recorded by me on a base PlayStation 5. So yeah, you can take this information for what you will. Either wait for a sale, or if you think that it's worth it, then just buy it up front. I will say that if you're trying to buy this from like a GameStop or something, usually GameStop only gets like 2 extra copies besides pre-orders of these games for the wall, and then you might be waiting for a restock or a trade-in. So if you do want to play it right away, I would suggest going out and getting it now, instead of waiting, because it might be a while for waiting. But they always have good Black Friday sales that are like coming up in the fall, so you can always wait for that and get like that and like Hunter x Hunter and then Impact or something like that together. But that's gonna be the video for today, guys. I know it's a weird one. I haven't done a video in a while. I'm just trying to not inundate you guys with stuff that I don't care about. Like, I could make like a ton of videos on stuff that like I honestly don't care about until like Soul Calibur comes back, but I'd rather not just be like a fart in the wind when it comes to other content creators. I want to just do what is entertaining to me and hopefully entertaining to you. And we're still getting tons of content with the shorts, and I'm also on Haunted Pizza's podcast with my comic buddies Wednesdays and Sundays. So besides that, I do my own live stream on Yoon-Fam Gaming right here on this channel from 4:30 most of the time until 5:30, but we have been going like 3-4 hours sometimes in these most recent streams. Like I beat Soul Calibur 5 in one day, in one sitting, and I didn't expect that. I thought it was gonna be a week's worth of videos. So I don't know, we'll see what goes on with Bleach, because the story mode is long, so they're probably going to be extra long streams, but that's neither here nor there. I will catch you guys on Monday for the next stream, if you're watching this on Sunday when I actually upload it. But any and all thoughts are always welcome in the comment section down below, guys. And of course, you can always join my Discord and we can chat there. Subscribe to Haunted Pizza so you can see me there every Wednesday and Saturday. And as always, guys, until the next one, peace.
Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon. So should you. Enjoy your treat!